Okay. So thank you all for coming. This is really special that all of you are here in the same place. So I spent a year in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. The province is one of 9 in South Africa. This is a map of the African continent. South Africa is here. And I'm just going to zoom in to show you where I am. So the red A is where I was.
Yeah, Irene, is that the most light on the computer?
There we go. Sorry. And yeah, so I was on the east coast of South Africa in a little town called Margate, which is a town of around 20,000, I think.
Is that where she was at the Red Dot?
Yes. It is a very small beach town. It is where a lot of South Africans go on holidays, as they call, or vacations. And it's pretty sparsely populated when it's not the holiday season. But I can assure you I worked very, very hard. I was not on holiday. So I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures from my journeys. And they're in different sections, and some aren't so necessary, and some I really, really would like to show you. So I'm going to go through the ones that I think are really crucial to my year, and then depending on how much else you want to see, you can see that if you want. So the first slideshow is called Give a Child a Family. The place where I was staying was called Give a Child a Family. It was an orphanage, for lack of a better word, a home for orphaned and vulnerable children. And it was started by a Swedish woman who's married to a South African man. And they started this organization 20 years ago. They were just having their 20-year celebration when I left. And it grew out of the two of them both really, really wanted to do something to help the vast numbers of orphans in South Africa. As a lot of you know, I'm sure, South Africa has a really, really high rate of HIV and AIDS. There are many, many AIDS orphans. There are just many children who are orphaned for different reasons. And they just really wanted to do something about this problem. And so they started this home 20 years ago. And they originally had kids out of their own home. They just took kids into their house. And this organization has just grown and expanded for all this time. And now it's a thriving organization. They have around 50 children at any given time. And kids are coming in and leaving all the time. And it's recognized as a model for throughout South Africa, and now really throughout all of Africa. They're expanding their model to new countries all the time. And it's really, really impressive. So this is the place where I lived. I lived in the volunteer house, which is located on Give a Child a Family premises. Okay. Stop. Okay. So this was where, can you guys see? Is it glaring? Okay. So this is where, sort of the view from within it. And this is looking out towards the gate where you would go if you were driving out. This is kind of along looking at, in here you would go through here to the kitchen and the dining hall. This is inside the dining hall where the kids will eat, and this is also where I ate on weekdays usually. And they're getting ready to have a whole bunch of donors in this room. This is actually a video, and I'm going to skip that unless you guys want to see it later. But this is like a tour I did with my camera, just videoing the whole Give a Child a Family place. This is my bedroom where I slept. It's pretty small, but I was lucky enough to have my own room. Most of the volunteers had to share a room. This is our dining room in the volunteer house, and our living room. And that's all. So already one slideshow down.
What's the next one?
Kumnandi. So as you guys hopefully all saw via the cake, the work I was actually doing is an organization called Siyavuna Development Center, and they're connected to Give a Child a Family in that they they split off from Give a Child a Family in 2008, I think it was. And they originally were started as a project of Give a Child a Family because they were trying to concoct a way that the families that adopted these children could have more income. And so their idea was to teach them how to grow organic vegetables and teach them how to feed their families. And that started out, it was and is a really good idea, but it started out like very much connected with Give a Child a Family's goals, and then it became very much its own organization with its own set of goals and purposes, and so it broke off, and now they're a separate organization. But they still work closely with Give a Child a Family. So I was living at Give a Child a Family, but I was working exclusively with Sivuna Development Center. And that was kind of unique. I think I was the first volunteer to come and plan on doing that. Some volunteers come and work with Give a Child a Family, and then they work like 1 or 2 days a week with SDC, but I was only working with SDC. So it's a little bit hard to know where to start, but basically what Sivuna Development Center does is they teach rural farmers how to grow organic vegetables, and they'll teach them in groups of anywhere from 10 to 50. Like whenever they can get a group of farmers together, they will teach them. They'll do this free 3-day training, and they'll teach them, in Zulu of course, how to grow vegetables for themselves. And then it's up to the farmers whether or not they want to start growing. And if they do want to start growing, it's up to them whether they want to sell to what's called the cooperative, the co-op. And if they do want to sell to the co-op, then that's where I come in. I was working with a co-op that would travel to these different farmers every week and collect vegetables from them. So the farmers would come to us and deposit their vegetables to us, and we would weigh them and quality check them and make sure they were good and ready to sell. And then we would pay the farmers cash on the spot for their produce, and then we would pack it all away and go on to the next point. And then when all that was done, we would sell the vegetables. So that was pretty much my work for this whole year. So it's really pretty simple, but you can't really imagine the number of things that can go wrong with such a simple system, such as, of course, the language barrier. Most of these farmers, they're all Zulu farmers, and most of them don't speak any English. A few of them speak a little bit, most don't speak much. So there's a lot of communication issues that we had. And there's all kinds of things that went wrong with logistics, getting there, dealing with horrible roads and all kinds of weather, and the car messing up in various ways, and the cash messing up and losing, thinking that we'd lost money and all those kinds of exciting things. So it was always an adventure. It was always fun, at least fun in retrospect, if not at the time. So I'm just going to take you through some of these photos, and if you have a basic question, feel free to ask, because there are some things that I'm so used to them, I just assume, well, this is just how it is, but I forget that people don't know.
So tell me your picture titles, I really know.
Okay.
I think I see that.
Well, it's pretty much like just A through whatever. So this is the first, is this a good, can you see? Okay. So this is the first collection point, which we did every Wednesday from 8 to 10 a.m. And this is called Jabula Inn. That's the name of the building. And it's a pretty humble building, as you can see. But this is one of our nicer collection points in terms of the space where we were collecting. It was outside. We would go through this door. And then this actually used to be a bar way back when. And so where we would set up is we'd set up like our crates and our scale and everything on this, what was the bar. And then we would be like behind the bar, and the farmers would come in and line up, and we would just take their vegetables one at a time as they came in. And this is my mom. My parents, she's at the bar, as you can see, holding a butternut squash. And both my parents came, and my mom got to participate in the collecting process, which was fun. This is the inside, so like right here is the bar, and then this is like looking through. So that's one of our nicer collection points. This is me loading bananas onto the vegetable truck. So many great stories with that truck. I don't miss it. So yeah, we loaded all the vegetables into crates and then hauled them all on the truck every day. This collection point is called the Swedish Church. This was probably by far the nicest collection point that we collected in. This was every Wednesday from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. This is me with one of the rural farmers. This lady is one of the women that they hired to help out at the collection points. Each collection point where we take in the vegetables has one farmer who they hire, and she gets paid a little bit per month. And she comes and helps us collect so that we're not doing it by ourselves. I should mention the co-op, which is what I was working with, it only had one employee, and I was the only volunteer. So it was just the two of us doing all the driving, all the collecting, all the selling, all the bookkeeping, and finding new sales points and dealing with anything that went wrong and any of that stuff. So that was a little much. But yeah, so it's very good that there were these farmers helping us. They're called community field workers, and they would just oversee the collecting process, and they had to know how everything worked. They had to be able to balance the cash at least, and read and write enough to do that. And that was actually quite a challenge to find people who could do that. And this is me and the same farmer, and this is my colleague Lindo, who was the co-op manager. So she was the sole employee of the co-op. She did a fine job. Now moving on to Thursday's collection points. This collection point happened every Thursday from 8 to 10. It was called Ungungunglovu. It took me several months to learn how to pronounce that. Ungungunglovu. And there's not even any clicks in it, so it's not even that hard to say. And this one is called Konwa. And this collection point happened every Thursday from 11 to 1.
Say that one again.
Onwa. I didn't do it right. Onwa. That's more like it. So this was the second point every Thursday. And this is inside Onwa. This girl, her name is Lisa. She was one of the Swedish volunteers, and she helped out with Sihuna 2 days a week, every other week for a couple months maybe. And that was more typical of the Swedes. Like if they wanted to at least try out Sihuna and see how it worked, they could do that. And this is Lindo. Her hairstyle is a little different in that picture. And these are just all the ladies helping her. I think this lady right here in the green hat is the CFW, the one who's there every week. This is one of my favorite pictures from the whole year, I think. This is me and Lindo and Lisa, one of the Swedes. And this is where we're selling now. So this was like after we've done the collecting for the day and we have all this fresh stuff to sell. And we're standing there with our table that we've set up all nicely, and we're just showing off our great stuff. And this is Lindo and Lisa. This is more the whole table and the whole truck. I hope you recognize the logo by now. And this is me with just interacting with a customer here. This shop is called Gay Ridge Chicken Shop, and they sold all kinds of chickens, all kinds of chicken parts at this shop. We sold it every Wednesday and Thursday afternoon. And they sold chicken feet, chicken liver, chicken breasts, chicken head, just everything chicken. And they even sold live chickens. I have a picture of that coming soon. This is inside a shop called Earth Mother Organic. The shop is in Durban, which is the closest big city to Margate. And they sold a lot of our vegetables. But we're still, as of now, we're still trying to find a way where we can actually get our vegetables to Durban for cheap, because it's been really hard to find transportation all that way.
How long a drive is it?
It's 2 hours to Durban from Margate. So it's been tough because a lot of times people will offer to drive the stuff up there, but then it costs more to transport the vegetables than they're worth themselves. So it's still a challenge, but we're trying to make it work to where we can sell to these people every week. And here are the live chickens at Gay Ridge Chicken Shop. I hung out so much at Gay Ridge selling, but this never failed to shock me a little bit. And this lady is buying live chickens from the person behind the counter.
They prefer to slaughter them themselves.
Yes, they slaughter them themselves. And It's very fresh, yes. This shop is called the Good Health Shop. This is where we sold every single Friday. Usually I would get dropped off there at the beginning of the day every Friday, and I would just sit there and sell all day, and then I get picked up on the other end of the day. Yeah, this is the result of a rather dramatic accident with a car. Yeah, that was an interesting story, but we made it out alive, which is the important thing.
Was that in question? Oh dear.
No. But it was very exciting because me and Lindo and this Italian volunteer Bianca were all in the front of the car because there's only 3 seats, and it was raining and it was really slippery and muddy, of course, because in the rural areas the roads aren't paved ever, and so we were trying to go up a very steep hill on very slippery ground, and the road was just terrible. This is a really bad road even when it's dry, and we tried to get up the hill and we couldn't, and only the back left and front right wheels were on the ground, and the other 2 were kind of dangling like that. And so we couldn't really get out because then the balance would tip, and so it would go too much to one side, so we were kind of stuck. So we finally were able to reverse back down, and then we got someone to help us drive it all the way back up. And in the process of going so fast back up, this happened because we hit a like wall of dirt. I'm not even sure how that happened, but I think we were pretty lucky that that's the worst that happened, actually. Yes, this was actually very early on in my year, but the Kunani truck got very, very stuck in mud, and this was on a different location. This was on a Thursday, and it was just really slippery and raining really hard, and we got to where we were stuck like to the left side of the road and couldn't get out, but a lot of locals generously helped us.
Irene, did it rain a lot?
Yes.
Every day?
No, but it seemed like it rained a lot. Like, weeks on end.
Oh, really? So, weeks on end?
Yeah, it felt that way. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a rainy season. Like, Cape Town has the rainy season in the winter, whereas we have a rainy season in the summer. By we, I mean in Margate, they have the rainy season in the summer. So yeah. And of course, their summers are flipped, so
Yeah.
their winter is our summer and vice versa, because they're the southern hemisphere. So this was one rainy day where I think it was the same day as the previous picture, actually, and we realized we couldn't get up that steep hill in the rain. So we just reversed and pulled over sort of halfway there and called the farmers and told them to come to us. And so the farmers, a few diehard farmers came with their produce to us, and we just collected right out of the vegetable truck and packaged it there. Yes?
Telephones, everything. I see the telephone wires and whatnot. So, I mean, there was...
Yes. The rural areas do have electricity, but most of them don't have running water. Not where we were. So yeah, I mean, certainly the community field workers and most of the farmers, actually, they have cell phones.
Cell
Which-
phones?
Yeah. So it's not hard, really, or theoretically it shouldn't be hard to just send a message to the farmers and say, come to this different location, or we can't make it today, or we're going to be late, or whatever. And we had to do that a few times because of weather and stuff. So this is inside the container where we kept all the vegetables. And I had to be in here quite a lot when I was unloading the vegetables and such. And this container is located in one of the rural areas, which is called Nosita. This is just showing you inside. It's bigger than I think it looks in this picture. This was a meeting of people who were just basically checking out what we did. This lady right here is kind of training the others, and she was trying to, I think, replicate our work elsewhere in South Africa. And so she just visited. This is inside the Swedish church, the picture I showed you before, and they're trying to just learn from what we do. This is a board meeting with the co-op. This is in this rural area of Nosita that I showed you before. And this is it's a pretty humble little building, but this is where we would have our board meetings every month or every other month. And all these farmers, well, most of the people here are the community field workers, the ones that would come to collection points and help out. And this is a volunteer from the church where I was at who was helping with organizing that through the church. This is me, and I think that's about all that I can explain now. This is most of the community field workers. This is after my very last meeting with them. And this is after my colleague Lindo had just explained to them that I was about to be leaving. Explained it in Zulu very, just in a very beautiful way, and just made it clear to them that I was about to leave and that I had helped out, and just explained that all to them. So this is one of my favorite pictures of the farmers. Just classic Zulu women.
So what is that, a bus or something?
Yes, they are sitting in the back of what's called a bucky. That's what they call it. They just all got into the back of this truck because they don't have individual cars, so they had to be all picked up from this taxi stop. And that's how they were all able to get to this meeting.
But they're from all around.
Yes, they're from all everywhere.
And in South Africa, the women do all the work, right?
Yes, the Zulu women do all the work.
That's universal.
Thank you, Mary.
My boss used to say about the Zulus, the women do the work and the men drink the beer. It's true. It's sad but true.
So there were no male farmers.
Very few. Very, very few.
Yeah,
But
they didn't speak English, right?
most of the
Those
farmers
ladies
didn't.
in the-
A few of the community field workers spoke some English, but most of the regular farmers didn't speak English.
And what were they all had different dialects. Those women, did they all speak the same,
No, they spoke the same.
which is,
Zulu.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you said you had to show the farmers how, or teach them how to grow
Mhm.
more, I mean, because they must have been growing some basic things.
Yeah, I mean, a
But
lot
you
of
were
these
showing
farmers.
them other things. It was the women then that
Yeah.
you were showing.
I mean, a lot of the farmers were already growing, but when they took the Siahuna Development Center training, so a lot of them were already growing before, but they weren't growing organically, and they have to grow organically in order to sell to us, because it has to be certified organic.
And
So
then they get more money out of it.
right. So the challenge then is to make them divorce their minds from like these old habits and to get them to grow in new ways. And so there has to be a 3-month gap between when they take the training and when they start selling to us to ensure that they've actually started to apply the organic principles. And then the farmers also get mentored by Siavuna Development Center staff to make sure they're growing organically. So they get home visits to their garden on a regular basis, and people they see that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do.
So the developmental center staff was larger than you and your
Yes, Siavuna Development Center was just it was about 7 people, and then me and this other girl were the co-op. That was it. And I thought I had a picture of all of us, but I don't see that I do. But it's in another album. That's why.
Did you have much resistance then from other family members or village members?
About growing
Especially
organically?
husbands, fathers, brother, whatever, that weren't doing the farming. The women were
Mhm.
doing the farming, the working, the selling, and so forth.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of resistance from?
You mean like husbands resisting
Yeah,
their
I
wives'
don't want her to do
efforts?
this, or
I don't. I'm not aware of that so much actually. I don't think that wasn't the biggest issue, really. I mean, traditionally the Zulu men are the ones who grow the grain crops like maize and like they have livestock and that sort of thing. But that's, I mean, I didn't see very much of that at all. It's really it's the women doing vegetables. Sorry?
They're working the mines.
Yeah. Or mostly they're unemployed. I mean, when you go, like when I would drive into the rural areas, I mean, I wouldn't see men hardly ever. It was a little bit spooky. I mean, I often ask people, like, where are all the men? What are they doing? Because they're not, I mean, I never see them. They don't come to the collection points. I mean, I rarely see them, like, at a job in the rural areas. I mean, there aren't really opportunities for formal employment so much in these rural areas, by definition. And then I wouldn't even see them in towns so much. So I mean, it was really creepy, actually.
Were some of them off the mines? Are these the people who?
Well, some of them, I mean, not so much where I was because it's not so close to
Ah.
like Johannesburg and those, I mean, where there's more of that sort of employment opportunity. But
Maybe they have to migrate there, that's why.
yeah, I mean, some of them do have, you know, what we would think of as regular jobs, teachers, nurses, you know, in retail or manufacturing or whatever. I mean, some of them had normal jobs in the towns, formal employment. But a lot of them are just simply unemployed and they're not doing anything. I mean, they're not helping their families at all. And I think most of you probably know the unemployment rate is really, really high in South Africa, which is one of the things this project is trying to deal with, giving people something productive to do that helps their income. And for every, I think this is right, for every one person who has formal employment in South Africa, they're supporting 10 other people
Wow.
who don't have employment. So this kind of thing is really, really important because it helps people. It helps people's income and it helps give them sort of a way out, because for a lot of these families in the rural areas who have been structurally repressed and oppressed by apartheid and that whole era, many of them haven't worked for generations. No one in their family has held a real job for generations. And so it's just really hard to sort of break that apathy and convince people that they can actually do something to help themselves. That was something I always came against, was getting farmers and getting the co-op as a whole to realize that it was their own co-op, and we had to really try not to just tell them everything. This is what you must do. Like this, you know, you have to decide for yourself. You have to decide these in your own communities. So that was very, very challenging the
So
whole
they
time.
could feel it, so that they could feel like it was their own.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, not to decide huge major things. I mean, just like, should the annual fee go up by 10 rand, which is like $1.20? You know, things like that they had to learn. Like they had to give their own input and decide for themselves if this was something they wanted to do. And of course the co-op has to sustain itself, so we can only offer so high prices for the vegetables. We can't pay them sky high prices because we have our own costs, like the truck and paying my colleague to work, and we had a lot of expenses as the co-op. So it's a challenge, and we're still not making. I mean, when I left, we were sort of barely making a profit. The co-op was, but it's definitely getting much, much better. I mean, even just from a year ago, like from when I started to when I left, it was just hugely improved.
When you said, Irene, that the co-op mandated only organically
Mhm.
grown,
Yeah.
what other way would they grow? I'm familiar with,
Mhm.
you know, in the West, pesticides and things like that being
Mhm.
used that would separate out from organic. But
Yeah.
what would they be doing?
Well, most of them are using pesticides when
Oh.
if they're farming already, they're probably farming with pesticides. And it was really frustrating when Steve Luna got started with this, because they would be teaching farmers these organic methods, and then the Department of Agriculture would be giving out free pesticides. And so the farmers would say,
Oh, wow.
okay, yes, they'll sign, you know, we'll grow organically, but then they'll just turn around and accept these pesticides from the Department of Agriculture that they're not supposed to be using. So they came up against all kinds of bad stuff when they tried to do
Do you see a lot
that.
of Monsanto down there?
Yeah, there's plenty of GMO crops just like here, unfortunately. And yeah, all kinds of scary stuff. So, in a way, they fight the same battles, a lot of the same battles we do here in the U.S. And I know, I mean, for one, like when my parents were in South Africa and they were looking at in the grocery stores, the amount of dye, the amount of fake stuff and pesticides in the grocery stores was really kind of horrifying, I think. So it's, yeah, I mean, they have a long way to go. Organic isn't really mainstream there yet. It's still kind of out there. As we learned when trying to sell it to people, you really have to sell organic stuff. It does not just sell. Like, it could be beautiful and fresh and, of course, organic and at a price comparable to much inferior produce in the grocery store, and people still won't just buy it. So we really had to advertise, and I did a lot of Facebook advertising, which was kind of fun, which really helped them out. but yeah, it was hard to sell the stuff to people. It was really tough. So we were kind of dragging it out of the farmers and pushing it onto the customers all the time. So that was just an eternal challenge.
How do you know that the farmers are producing organically? How do you, when they
Yeah.
produce, how do you know that they did it the right way
Yeah.
versus the wrong way?
Well, we had when they do the training and when they become a member, which is different. After they do the training, they don't have to become a member, but if they want to, they have to pay a small annual membership fee, and then they get a card, a little membership card like this big, and it has their name and their farmer's number on it. And then they can sell to the co-op using this card. So they have to present the card when they sell, and then we'll write down their number and we'll write down everything they brought us. So in order to get this card also, they have to sign all these papers and saying, we'll grow using only organic methods.
So it's an honor system.
Well,
But you
no.
said there's spot checks too.
Yeah, they also get mentored by even the people who come and visit them regularly, and they have to sign a sanctions document as well, so that it basically says that if you see someone else growing not organically, you have to tell them, and you can tell SDC people anonymously. You have to report it if you see it. And this was also a challenge to get farmers to realize that if they screw it up, then everyone's screwed, because if one farmer is not growing organically, then that messes up everyone around them. So they have to work together. They have to, or else it just won't work. So, we did have some times where my boss would look at something and be like, there's no way this can be grown organically. It looks too good. And you don't throw it away, but that's part of the process. It gets fine-tuned more and more all the time. And we have had to sanction a couple farmers. And if somebody gets sanctioned, everyone sees it, then people really start to take the system seriously. But yeah, it is tricky. You can't be everywhere at once. You can't see all the gardens at once. But it's getting really, really. It's not certified, so it's not officially organic quite, but it's at least 90%. It's getting really fine-tuned.
It's certified by the organization that you were working with.
Well, we have what's called a participatory guarantee system, a PGS system. So that's the closest we have to it being certified. It's not like government certified.
There's going to be certifications all over the world. There would be a
Yeah.
U.S. certification, or if they wanted to.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of my work life in a nutshell. And I would really like to show you, I want to show you some of the people in my life this year. But before I do that, I just want to take 2 seconds to show you, this is called Local Extremes, the album. Okay. Yay. Okay. This area is located about 1 kilometer from Give a Child a Family. And it's a township called Masanenge. And this is just a rural area where people live. And this is just an example of the kind of extreme poverty that a lot of South Africans live in and have for generations. And this is a little bit out of order, but this house is located about 1 kilometer from Masanenge. This is just a huge house. I don't know who lives in this house. I don't think they live there all the time. But it's just in the middle of this otherwise not well off area. And this is the kind of thing you see in South Africa that seems totally random, like this house that doesn't fit in with its surroundings at all. And then this is the same really, really rich house. And this is Masanenge, the same really, really poor area I showed you before. Okay, so these are some of the people I got to know and love during my year. And I have many, many stories about each of these people. So I'll try not to talk too long. Okay.
This is the beautiful people thing.
Yes, beautiful people. So this couple, this is Ross and this is Anna and this is me. And she is Swedish and he is South African, and they met when they were both working at Give a Child a Family. They've been married for 8 years, so it was I think about 9 years ago that they were both there, and they wanted to have like weekly Bible studies at their houses or at their house with all the volunteers, and so I got to know them very well because I was at their house every week for this whole year, doing Bible studies. More on that later. This couple, Barry and Lynn, I was a part of a church, I should just say, when I was in South Africa, and this church was right next door to Give a Child a Family, and the pastor at this church is married to the director of Give a Child a Family. So the Swedish woman is the executive director of Give a Child a Family, and her husband Basil Woodhouse is the pastor at this church. And this church has these small groups called home groups, and they meet every week. And this couple, they didn't lead our home group actually, but our home group met at their house. So that's them. Very, very hospitable, nice people. These two, Catherine and her sister Crystal Farmer. This is Crystal, this is Catherine. They're from Cape Town, but Kathy does her doctor's internship in Margate. And so we got to know each other very well over about 9 months. And I visited them. This is at their house in Cape Town, and I was there right before I came home. This is my home group. It's quite an interesting group of people. That's all I can say. We had a lot of fun times. And this is me within the home group. Right there. These are my bosses. This is Jacques Sneeman, an Afrikaans guy, and this guy's name is Wim Troosters. He is Belgium. He's pretty young, late 20s, and he's basically the founder of Sivuna. He kind of masterminded the whole project, and these two work very, very closely together, and they were just kind of the heads of the whole project, and were in charge of fundraising and making sure it's all going well, that sort of thing. And this is my colleague Lindo, who just does all the operations for the co-op. She's quite a woman. We had some fun times together. And these are two of my best friends who I made in South Africa. This girl is Swedish, her name is Linnea. And this is Kylan, a good friend, who also went to this church. And we have a lot of fun stories together. He's from South Africa, and she's from Sweden.
Where's that picture taken?
This is taken, good question. It's taken off the top of this cool restaurant in Durban called the Roma Revolving Restaurant. It's one of, I'm not sure if this is right, I think it's one of 9 restaurants in the world that revolves. So it's, if you go in, it looks a little bit like a, I don't know. It looks like a train car a little bit because it's a round restaurant and it revolves once around every hour. So and it's really, really high. So from the top you can see the whole of Durban. But it's funny because the one day that we went to this restaurant, it was not revolving. The one day in its 40-some year history that it didn't revolve because of an engineering issue. Yes, bad timing. So it was not revolving on this particular day, but we still got very nice pictures, if I can say so. And we still managed to have fun, and they still had great food, so that's really the main thing. And this is Linnea again, and me, and this girl, her name is Monique, and she's one of the foster children of Basil and Monica, the founders of Give a Child a Family. Basil and Monica have 3 biological daughters, and they also have 2 adopted daughters, and then they also have 3 foster daughters who aren't really officially their children, but they, for all intents and purposes, they are their children. So this is one of the foster daughters, Monique, and she's a little younger than me. I think she's 20 now.
She's a wild and crazy one.
Yes, she is crazy in the best way.
That's some of the organic alcohol.
Yes, we are at a wine tasting. Wasn't that crazy though? Don't worry. Okay, so this is the first group of volunteers, and this picture is actually taken before I arrived. But when I arrived, it was these 6 Swedes and me. So from left to right, this is Julia, Lisa, Christina, Adam, Emily, and Julia. There are a lot of Julias who come from Sweden, 2 in this particular group. But this was, a nice group of people. And this is the same group, and we are at the crocodile farm, sitting on a metal crocodile in goofy poses. Again, Julia, Emily, me, Julia, Lisa, and Adam. The one lone guy in this group, poor guy. And this is the second group of volunteers. And they didn't all leave and come at once. Like a couple left and then one came and then more left and then more came. But in general, this is the second major group of Swedes that I lived with and got to know. This guy's name is Joel, Malin, Martin, Erica, and me. And there was also a guy called Marcus, and he did not make it into this picture. I think he had already left. This is, again, the picture I showed you earlier called the Good Health Shop. This is the owner, Michelle, and she owns the shop and is kind enough to let us sell there for free every Friday. And her shop sells all kinds of supplements and health food type things. So every Friday was kind of fun because I would just sit out there outside her shop and go into her shop and visit with her too, and it was nice. And my parents came, as I told you before, and my dad was only in South Africa for 4 days, but my mom was here for 12 days. But during those 4 days, we had a lot of great fun, and this is one of the restaurants we ate at. Take that picture. This is a South African guy named Phil, and this is Bianca, also known as Kutsi. She is from Italy, and she was in South Africa doing her internship with Siovuna Development Center for her master's degree in international relations. And so she had this big paper to write about Siovuna and how we work and that kind of thing. And she also did quite a bit of help with the co-op, and she's still here. She's still there, actually. She'll leave in late November. And yeah, so those two met and hit it off right away, and they're very much in love currently.
What
So
is
yeah.
that thing with the 2 antennas?
Those are drink straws. They're sharing some exciting drink. So yeah, South Africa and Italy, super fun. And this is the picture I was wanting to show you before. This is all the Siovuna staff together. This is Sandile, Nomple, Pearl, Wim, me, Bianca, Lindo, Jacques, and Mateto. So all these people work with either Siovuna or with the co-op. This is a Zulu girl. Her name is Cindy. Cindy turned out to be a very important person in my life because she helped me out at a very desperate moment. There was one dramatic moment when my colleague Lindo accidentally drove over my computer. That's an interesting story how that happened, but I was in a position where I wasn't sure how I was going to fix it because I knew there was a place in Durban where I could get it fixed, but I didn't know when or how I would get there because you can't really just take a volunteer car and drive up to Durban yourself. That's expensive and takes a long time and that kind of thing. So I knew there was an event in Durban on a Sunday night that I wanted to go to, and I wasn't sure how I was going to get to this place on Monday morning because, of course, this computer place is only open on weekdays, and I didn't know, I didn't know where I was going to spend the night. So I just decided to go to this event, and I had my overnight stuff with me, and I said, I hope I'm going to find some place to stay tonight. And I met this girl at this concert I was going to, and she knew the people I was traveling with, and they said, yes, she's a nice person, and she said, she just heard my predicament and said, of course you can stay with me tonight, and I'll take you to the computer place in the morning. So she took me to this computer place and was just so helpful in getting it all fixed, to the point where I'm actually almost grateful I messed up my computer because I got to meet her in the process of getting it fixed. So she was just a great friend, a really fun person. Is it frozen? No.
Are you going to stay in contact with these folks in a capacity to continue to work with them, or?
Well, not doing the work I was doing for sure, but I mean, I'll keep in touch with friends, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you meant?
Yeah, in a way, because if you've invested a year of your life
Mhm.
and you've given them things that they may or may not have had before, and so it just made me think that I bet a lot of people tend to want to stay in touch and
Yeah.
stay a member, if you will.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. That's why I appreciate Facebook a lot. I mean, I've already kept in touch with a few of the people I hope to be in touch with for a long time, so I hope that keeps up. Yeah. So this is at Anna and Ross's house. As I said, they had us over quite frequently. And this is on Christmas Day. They had us over. Or Christmas Eve, I forget, but this is a bunch of us Swedes just hanging out. We hung out a lot in this living room. And yeah, is that it? I guess so.
Is there any particular reason there's a lot of Swedes in South Africa?
No, it's just because of this connection to Give a Child a Family that the founder, the founding director is Swedish. That's the connection. So these Swedes just hear about it and they come, like,
Swedes are
individually.
good people.
They are. They're very, very nice people.
So, again, explain how you got to do this.
Okay, so yeah, that's an interesting story too. I went to South Africa for a month in January of 2010, and it was with my school. It was a religion class technically, but we went everywhere in the country and we saw all kinds of things and had to write a lot about our experiences and stuff. And that was just a really great class, and it made me want to go back to South Africa. And so I contacted this lady who led part of that trip in 2010. She's a insanely well-connected South African woman, around my parents' age, and she knows everyone, pretty much. And I just asked her for ideas about how I might be able to volunteer in South Africa for a year, and she suggested Siyavuna Development Center and Give a Child a Family. She's on the board of Siyavuna, so that was the connection there. And she just said that they're great organizations and you should try to hook up with them and see what you can do. So yeah, and I think it's pretty clear by now. But the co-op really needed my help.
No kidding.
And I don't know how they would have gotten by actually if I hadn't been there. So I'm very, very grateful that this worked out the way it did.
Do they have a replacement for you now?
No, not really. I mean, they have Bianca, the Italian girl. She's about my age. But like I said, she's here primarily to do her internship. So she's not here. She's not in South Africa to volunteer indefinitely. She goes home, like I said, at the end of November. So then they really will need a new person. So.
Do you want to go back?
Well, yeah, but not to do what I did. To visit people
to do
and
what?
Well, to see people and see friends and stuff. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I have other.
How much Zulu do you speak now?
A few words. That's it. Yeah.
Can you share them with us?
Kumnandi.
Nadi, yeah. Yeah.
You're out
Siyabonga.
you're out of context.
I mean, let's see. Thank you, Siyabonga. I mean,
The name of the town again?
Margate is where I live.
No, the Ulu Ulu
Oh. The name of that collection point. Umbulu Tofu is the name of it.
Oh my gosh.
And hi, how are you? Unjani Sapila. That's about it. I can say seeds. Umbeyo.
The woman that you worked with, she spoke English
Yes.
pretty well.
Very, very good English, yeah. Yeah, so I think I'll leave it at that, and then I'll show you other pictures as you wish.